so let's get started. So welcome to Family Law Software Cloud. I am going to click login. If it's your first time, just click forgot password. But if you've been in before, hopefully it's just saved and you can just get right in. By default, when you go into Family Law Software Cloud, no file is going to be loaded. Okay, so you have to go into File Manager to start a file or open a file. So we're going to start right from the beginning and let's click File Manager. And so this is new to Family Law Software Cloud. We have released this to help you better organize your files and keep track of your information. If you are a multi-user firm, when you log in, you're going to see, and you're an attorney, you will always see an attorney's name here. So if you're a paralegal and you log in and you're like, where's my name? No, your name is not going to be listed as a user. You technically use the software under a licensed professional. And so that's why you'll see the name of the lawyer here. If you have multiple attorney users, you can click Select Pro. By clicking Select Pro, you can switch between attorney users. Okay, so we organize files underneath the name of the attorney. And so if you need to find a file that another attorney is kind of like the lead or like the responsible attorney on the case, you can search all firm files. So you can see here, I've got Anna's files. And if I come here, you can see all firm files. If I click all firm files, it's going to list all of the files. And I can use this search bar to go through the entire platform to find that client's case. Okay, so if someone's on vacation, you got to pick it up, or you're a paralegal and you just can't find the file. This is what we have added for your purposes. All right, so Anna's file. So I'm back to my files. We now list the amount of active files. That is a whole lot of files. So obviously I don't have these many cases open. So we now have an archive area. So you can send these files over to the archive. How do you do that? So again, these are all of my files. We've added this new button here, the vertical ellipsis. If I click it, I could archive the file. So down here it says archive. I could rename the file. I can look at the history of the file. I could copy it or email it. And so you might want to email your file for support purposes. So that's extremely common that you ask us a question and we say, please send us your file. And so you can email this to us, or you could email this to the mediator or another professional on the case if you guys want to collaborate on data collection or information. So that's available as well. Shared files. If you did not know, Family Law Software allows your clients to enter data themselves. So what does that mean? It means that you can register clients and these 4 clients are able to go online and enter their financial information. They are able to enter the address, their employer's address, the value of the home, the outstanding mortgage, the names of the kids. So if you want this to be a part of your process, what we have done to try to make it easier and more attractive for attorneys to use is, you see this client here, she is locked out of her file. So as the attorney, I believe that I have already collected enough information from her and I no longer want her to go in and make edits. And so if that's the case, I can just lock it, or I can unlock it and say, go back in and add, what you believe is non-marital property until we get a determination, or, whatever it is you want them to do. Okay, so that is all about managing your files. Let us know if you have any questions about that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close the file manager. So again, when I log into Family Law Software, this is what it looks like. So if you want to open a case or start a new case, you have to go into File Manager. So now we're back in File Manager. To start a case, let's click New. So when I click New, remember I told you that you could register a client. So when I start a file, by default, this is what we call a new file. That means only I can see it, only I can touch it. The client will never enter data for me. If you want your client to enter data, or at least have the option to enter data, you might be on the fence and you just want to give it a try, you must register the client, and the difference is the email address. So It's the email address that's going to be different. We don't ask for email unless you register them. Okay. And you can test this out. You can use your own private email and just go through the process. We don't charge any extra for this. So if you want to test it out, please do so. And then you can see the full process, what the client sees, and then what the attorney sees. All right, so new file. So let's say I represent Tommy. And then I'll have Anna. All right, perfect. By default, your state is Florida. You can actually change the filing state for lots of different reasons. And then you have your case name. But by default, if you're in Florida, your case will be Florida. And I just click create the new case file. By default, family law software is going to take you into the most popular tool. The most popular tool in our program is child support. I'm going to come back to child support. So our program is going to do the child support calculation, obviously, but I want to focus on the financial affidavit first. So let's look at the flow of the program. We already were in File Manager, and that's where we opened a case or started a case. Enter data here when I click it. This is where you always enter data. So anytime you have a number, an address, the kid's name, etc., you do it anywhere under the enter data section. The reason you do that is that if you enter it in any section here, it will flow to the other section. So if I enter income under income and expenses, it will still flow to my child support calculator. Nothing is wasted. In our program, you don't tell our program, oh, I want to create an ED worksheet or I want to make a financial affidavit. You just enter the data all through this section. And then under reports, so if I click reports, this is where you'll be able to print all of your reports. We are always simultaneously making these reports for you. And so that way you don't have to select a report and only make that one report or form. You have them all ready for you because they use the same information. So that's the beauty of using our product versus using Excel for one thing, Word for another, and a PDF filler for something else. So definitely, if you are one of those firms that are doing one of these functions outside of the program, I really challenge you to bring it back in. Especially during the pandemic, we saw people were out sick or there was a lot of job movement and people were losing their information. So if you got it in one place, it'll stay in one place. So the financial affidavit. We collect all of the information in the order of the Florida financial affidavit, the Supreme Court form. So what we do first, though, that's a little different from the form is we do parties and children. What do we mean by parties and children? Each party will have their own folder. So Tommy is my client. He has a folder. I would click this to open it. Anna has a folder. I would open it here. I can add the kids here. If I open Tommy's folder, there's a few relevant pieces of information. By default, he's the first party, so we assume he's the petitioner. We mark him as male. That's for pension valuations. So as far as like the gender goes, there's a few other data points that may or may not be relevant. Obviously, Florida keeps having those alimony statutes that come around. And so we leave the information in the program. But for you, if it's not relevant, you can obviously skip it. Something that you might not have known that family law software does is you can change the state for one party just for tax purposes. So you represent Tommy and he happens to live in Georgia. So this is a drop down. I can select Georgia. So all of the forms, like the child support calculation, are going to be Florida specific, but he will be taxed as though he is in Georgia, which obviously in this case he is. So, so I will bring him back to Florida, but every once in a while, you're probably going to have that one case where somebody is in New York or somebody is in, California, somewhere else. The parent doesn't live here. So know that we do that for you. Tax filing status for now and the future. And then we also do the same thing for Anna. So we have her folder. I'm not going to add, well, I'm not going to add a child now. So I will add a child while I'm here. So I'm getting creative. Kid 1, the date of birth is important and we'll get to that in child support. So for now, I'll just leave it like that. All right, so that is parties and children. So if I had to change one to petitioner or respondent, or I spelled the name wrong, I could change that here. Income and expenses. So now when you go into income and expenses, this is the skeleton of your Florida Supreme Court financial affidavit. So if you notice, it says case header. Sections 1 through 3. So are they retired? Are they unemployed? What are they doing to solve that situation? And so if I open up let me open up the header. So let's put in some case information. So I could say that I am in the 9th Judicial Circuit, and we'll say I'm in Orange County, and then I type in my case number. So anything that appears on the financial affidavit in that first page, you would put that here. Okay, so the background information, the header. So if you wanted to change the header, petitioner, respondent, you want to make it petitioner, former husband, you could. So that's completely up to you. So you're able to do those customizations. If you customize or you override the program, it turns red within the program just to let you know that you have done a modification. For text especially, that is perfectly fine. And so it's up to you if you need to modify the case header or add additional parties. All right, pretty straightforward. So I'm going to jump into more meat and potatoes, which is like income. So if you are a firm, let me just close this. Actually, I don't want to make you dizzy. Let me close this. A lot of attorneys I have found, no matter how high tech or low tech you are, tend to print a blank financial affidavit and give it to the client. If that is the type of firm that you are, I could go right now into reports and print the financial affidavit. It would have the case header and what I've already entered, and I could give that to the client. So if that's your process, what's great is when they give it back to you, everything is in the order of the financial affidavit and you can pop it in. If your client did data entry themselves, when you open these sections, you'll see what they entered. So if I were to open the income section for my client and nothing is there, don't call tech support. It's probably because your client just didn't do the homework that you gave them. So you said go online and enter their data, and they might not have done it, or maybe they entered, some other form of income, rental income or something like that. So, and they don't have a W-2 job. So you can look through what they've done. In this case, so line 1 of the financial affidavit is wages. And so what you'll notice in the program, gross. We are always asking for gross income. Why? Because family law software is going to calculate the taxes for you. So one of the big functions of having our software is Florida is obviously a net income state. So we have to get to net income under the IRS and then obviously under the Florida statute. So let's say that Tommy makes $5,500 a month. If you see text that you didn't enter, it's a drop down. So if it's the end of the tax year, maybe he has like his annual income. He's got that last pay stub. So I could enter the annual amount. So part of the goal of our program is for you to not have to pull out a calculator. So what you'll also notice is if you click a field that you would enter a number, you see these like blue boxes here. There's 2 of them. One is like a mini calculator. So that's supposed to look like a calculator. And this, the pound sign, I can enter text into these fields, or I could highlight the field. So if you don't know what it is, or you want to make sure that you make it a different color so that you know to go back to it, those are functions within the program as well. So blank, wife has info, husband has info. So I'm just going to click cancel. So again, if I click a numbers field, then I could have those options. The other thing you're going to notice in family law software is this blue box. This blue box is a footnote. If I click this blue box, it says enter your footnote. So this is my footnote. And I type in more. There's a few other options with your footnotes. You can make them bold. You can mark them as estimated. So if you need that line to be estimated, you can, and I click save. Every single line can be footnoted. And so once you have a footnote, you'll notice that there's no longer, it was a blue ellipsis or a blank. And let me see. So here you can see what it looked like before. And then now there is a footnote. So if you were a footnote fanatic, let me know and I'll go more into footnotes when we print. And this green box means more information. So that means you have something weird about this line. Maybe it's non-taxable. Maybe it's only going to be for X amount of time. So this green box is more information. We're going to get to that when we go into real estate, because it's really important with some data entries and not so much others. Look for other tax options. Are they self-employed? Why? Because it's 1099. They're subject to the self-employment tax, hourly options. So look for all of that stuff throughout the program. And then if I scroll down, so line 1 is wages, line 2 is bonuses. So work your way through, enter the data appropriately, footnote, because that's how you make the most compelling financial affidavit you can. Use as much real estate as possible to tell your client's story. So when I scroll down, more income. So 10 through 17, it continues the income. Again, this is in the long form format for the financial affidavit. We can switch to the short form. So if you want to print a short form financial affidavit, you can, and they're almost identical, except for the short form starts changing after this point. So this is all long form based. Even if you want to print a short form, you still have to enter the data in the numbers of the long form. All right, let's talk about real estate. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory, hopefully, because we have these line numbers for you. So I'm just going to go over a few tricky sticky points. And if you ever have a case that you need help with, my name and email is in the chat. So that way you can reach out to me if you have a question or issue that you don't want to be public. Just let us know how we can help. Household. So household or real estate. You can add real estate, meaning that it is a piece of physical property that your client has ownership in. So I would click add real estate property. If they are just a renter, then I would click add tenant. What's the difference? If I click real estate, that means there's an asset and debt relationship. There's going to be taxes. There's going to be ownership. If they're just a renter and I click add tenant, that means that they have no ownership. So by clicking add real estate, it actually does a lot of functions within the program versus tenant just knows that they just have household expenses. So know that. And you can have multiple pieces of real estate and they could still be leasing something. So know that there could be a combination of all of the above. When I click add real estate, this whole thing is now added to the program. Don't be overwhelmed. Real estate's complicated. So I could say that this is 1, 2, 3 homestead. And the value of the homestead, you know, everyone's house is worth like $1 million now. So I put in the value of the house. And so then I've got the mortgage balance and I've got the monthly payment. We are asking for all of this information because it affects, obviously, the financial affidavit, the asset liability section. It also will go onto their equitable distribution worksheet. So, and it's relevant for lots of different reasons. So let's keep on going and entering data. And then the interest rate, you know, a bunch of people have got some low interest rates now. So let's put that in. Now, who pays? Something that can be frustrating for some users, but at the same time, other users find it, they appreciate it right from the start, is that we are a two-party system. What do I mean by that? It takes 2 people to make a child. It takes 2 people to get divorced. And so when you enter a piece of property, because we are a two-party system, you have to make sure that it's going on the right financial affidavit and the right person is responsible for it. So who pays means who is paying all this fun stuff. Who is paying the mortgage and the interest, okay? Tommy, Anna, 50-50 or some combination. Okay. The same thing with real estate being complicated. Look for other things, and then we'll get to the green box in just a moment. And then there is a question about income. We're going to get to that when we're in child support. I'll double back on that. But for now, let's focus on the real estate. Real estate expenses. So Tommy might be paying the mortgage, but Anna might be paying the expenses. So just keep an eye on that. So the same when it comes to assets and liabilities, just pay attention to who's paying for it and also like who technically owns it, you know, as far as title, because it matters. Real estate expenses. So what we do in our program is when you have a piece of property, we create a separate property with a list of expenses. So each property has their own expenses if you have multiple properties. So all of the expenses are listed here in the order of the financial affidavit. You could enter it as a weekly, monthly, or annual amount. So if I enter the annual taxes as being $12,000 a year, then it automatically updates the monthly and the weekly. So just know that, you know, if this is your first time doing it, don't feel overwhelmed. We're not asking for all that stuff, okay? And then like the phone line, you know, let's say like that's like $80 a month. etc. So you just kind of keep on going through and like entering your data. If you need to footnote it, so I've got the footnote here, Tommy's footnotes versus Anna's footnotes. So remember, it's a two-party system. So just keep on plugging and chugging, and that's the gist. If I needed to add another piece of real estate, I would scroll down and then I would just click add real estate, and I would do that. So I want to make sure I show you what I mean by this in our final printout. So it's making me scroll up. So I've got my first property, and then this is going to be 456 Beach House. If we could only all be so lucky. All right, perfect. And I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so then I've got the beach house, and then Tommy's paying for everything. We'll just say he's the money spouse, and then we'll say 9,000. I don't know. I'm just entering some numbers just to make sure that when we get to the end, you see some data. All right. The green box that I promised you. So if real estate wasn't, complicated enough when you have a lot of properties in your cases, there's more. So this green box, again, you're going to see it everywhere in the program and the footnoting, but the green box for real estate in particular is really important. So when I click the green box, these are all other things that could affect the house. Is it going to be sold? Is there a second mortgage? Is it a rental property? Is it mixed? So if it's non-marital property, but it has marital appreciation, then you would want to go into the separate and you would want to calculate that. So we do have like the COFIX calculator here. And so if you didn't know that was in the program, it is there. It requires obviously more information to get it done, but we have the calculator for you. So if you've ever wondered, do we have something in the program? Reach out to us. We might have it, we might not, we might want to add it. All right. So, all right, we've got the homestead, we've got the beach house. Let me close that. All right, so let me look at time. We are doing okay. Let's just leave it at that. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. This is the main screen. Everything's in order of the financial affidavit. I'm making a financial affidavit for Tommy. I could switch to Anna. I could do both side by side. So if you're a mediator and you have two financial affidavits in front of you and you really like to prepare for mediation before they come in, you could enter all of the information affidavit style. And then when I go to my child support calculator, all of the information is there, but for, the overnights and, a few issues regarding taxes. So you can enter the data whichever way you prefer. It's all going to the entire program. Assets and liabilities, again, in the program, you're going to see options at the top. So if something seems missing or you want to add something or you have a question, look around the program. There's blue bubbles to help guide you, and there's tons of options, help, videos, and guides, and you have access to ourselves as well. So assets and liabilities, it's all in the order of the financial affidavit again, and it automatically goes to your ED worksheet, which I will hopefully have time to touch on, but I might not. Final section is the attorney signature page, certification. We do have a pension plan calculator that we're not going to go into. We have an advanced webinar that's going to touch on some pension stuff and the analysis tools. All right, printing. Sorry, there was a question. So there was a question about real estate. So reach out to us. But the question was, can you have a piece of real estate without expenses? Right now, no. So right now, and I'll show you right now, when you have a piece of real estate, you do have expenses, but we've had enough of you request that you don't want that. So we will be releasing, hopefully this summer, a version where you can remove expenses if you don't want them. So for that person that asked that question, the more that you guys reach out to us, the more that we are going to make changes to the product because it's for you. So look out for that change, hopefully this summer. Printing. So we're happy with our financial affidavit. We entered all of our information here and we want to print a financial affidavit. I click reports and then I click financial affidavit. So all of my reports are listed here. I click financial affidavit and you're like, where's my financial affidavit? We've got more questions for you. So these are all options regarding footnotes. Where do you want them? How do you want them? Do you want a notary section? You may or may not want it. Do you want it to be PDF format? We'll do it for you if you want it. And then you could print Tommy's, or Anna's or both. So if I'm Anna's pro se and I want to make sure that she has the same net income that my child support guideline has, maybe I will print her financial affidavit and she can fill in the rest of the blanks herself. So that's why we have that. I'm going to click that I want to print an entire financial affidavit. You could remove a section if you want. You could preview the section by clicking these links. And I will click PDF up in the top right-hand corner now. When I click PDF, I have my Chrome browser set to open my PDF within my browser. You might have it set to open your Adobe or your PDF viewer. That's a personal preference. So if that's ever bugged you, know that that's something that you can fix within your settings. So everything that I've entered is here. Anything that's blank, I might just want to close this and go back into the program and add the information. So, or my client might be filling it in with, handwriting. I don't know. So it's up to you, but you go back into the program to update. Footnote, if you recall, we had a footnote. So this was his gross income. This was his footnote. I marked it as estimate. This is my favorite way to print footnotes, but we have other ways of printing footnotes. It can print at the end of the section, or you can print all of your footnotes together as a separate attachment. It's up to you. Let me know if you want to talk more about footnotes. Taxes. So remember I said everything is gross. All of the taxes are automatically calculated for you. You can adjust these if you need to. We just don't suggest that you do. So if your clients ever have questions about that, then you would let them know that we are calculating their taxes on an annualized basis. It's not going to match their W-2 statement most of the times because that's just a snapshot of their taxes. We are going to calculate their taxes on an annualized basis, and we're going to take in their filing status, which their W-2 does not. It just takes in claimed exemptions, right? And then again, so someone asked about the Adobe, the PDF. That's up to you. So that's a browser setting. So if you're using Chrome, you go into your Chrome settings. If you're using Safari, you go into your Safari settings. And so that's how you would change that. So if you need to look up your browser and then how to do that. Is there a way to just put in net wages? So for the financial affidavit, no, but we do have a net income option. So we are actually going to go into child support. So if anybody had a question about the income or the taxes, we're going to come back to those like now. So how do I, oh, there we go. All right, perfect. So you should be seeing the program again. So if I have not properly shared that, obviously let me know in the chat or the Q&A. Let me make sure that we are addressing right now. Okay, perfect. So enter data. We just went over entering all of the information for the case. So, and how to print a financial affidavit. Let's go over child support. So when I go to child support, quick. So we added this not too long ago. Okay, perfect. We're going to start talking about income. Perfect. So quick child support. This is going to be our default starter. What is quick child support? Quick child support is easy child support. So you have a simple case, or maybe you're doing a client consultation and you're just going to offer them a taste of what they might be in for, or if it's even worth it for them to pursue a modification. So that's what quick means. Quick is just the kids, the status, wages, other income, alimony. This is meant to mimic the Department of Revenue's Excel worksheet. It's just like a super simple, like that's just a straightforward calculation. If your case is more complicated, you would click complete. And we're only going to focus on the complete today, but I just want to introduce the quick so you know what it is intended for, how you could use it. Complete. If you have never calculated child support in your entire life, you're new to the firm and your boss said, go run child support guidelines, all you have to do is work your way through these folders and I promise you'll calculate the correct child support and you'll see it at the top as you are calculating it. Okay, so this is like a really great tool so that you can see the live number. Children. So if I open up the children folder, I already entered the child that I called kid 1 and I put his date of birth. I'm going to add another child. And I'm going to call this child. Super creative, kid 2. You can put their initials, which is what I see most commonly. I sometimes see guidelines that has the actual full name and then the initial. I always feel like I'm having to go back and read the rule to see what it's supposed to be, because I just feel like a lot of people, I don't know, I think there is definitely a rule on it, but for some reason, every time I see a guideline, people do it differently. However you want to name the children, but make sure that you do have their date of birth. That's actually important for several reasons, including taxes and step downs. So what you'll notice is each child has their own line, and these are overnights here on the far right. Overnights dictates a lot. So right now, if Anna has the kids 100% of the time, she gets to claim all of the fun stuff. If I switch dad to be the majority time sharing parent, now his name is in these boxes and he's claiming all the fun stuff. I bring this up because this is what the IRS would do. Whoever has the children the majority of the time gets to claim the fun stuff, but for some other agreement. So that's like the default. Obviously, your parenting plan is going to address this in more detail, but so that you know how our program works, that's what's going on. And I bring this up because sometimes we are playing around with the 183, 182. And so by changing that one overnight, it can make a huge difference in your child support number, which is live at the top once you have kids plus money. It can make a huge difference because of the tax credits that are swinging back from parent to parent. But let's say that they have either, and you can enter 50-50. So if I wanted to do 182.5, I can. I suggest that you just allocate the extra overnight, but you know, if that's how you want to, if that's how you do it in your practice, that's perfectly fine too. And so know that you could do it this way or the 50-50s. Tax, who's claiming the child? This box here is saying who is going to claim the child for tax purposes. That means that they're going to get the child tax credit. By default, whoever has the kids the most will be listed in this box, but that can be changed. So if I click here, it could be Tommy, Anna, alternating, or neither. So I could switch it easily to mom, and I can see that child support went down like $30 a month. So know that you can change that. Sometimes people get frustrated with this box, especially if you're doing a true 182.5, like a true 50-50. But for IRS purposes, there's certain tax credits that only follow a majority time sharing parent. And so that's why this box is just letting you know who actually has the children the most. So this you can only adjust if you have a true 182.5. And so like the earned income tax credit would follow this parent. So, and that can be huge. When it comes to parties that have lower income. All right, so let's just give this kid back to Tommy. Perfect. This is what a lot of people probably are looking at, but I want to point out the blue bubbles first. So blue bubbles are help throughout the program. They're super helpful when it comes to tax concepts. So if I click this here, you might want to read this whole thing. Maybe not now, but maybe you're in mediation and someone's just throwing around like, they don't understand the law or they don't understand the tax consequences. And so if you click on this blue bubble, it might save the day. Maybe, maybe not, but at least you'll have some information to help you. This is all for split custody. You cannot accidentally use these tools. If I click on them, they will not change child support. Split custody means that dad has one child for 300 overnights and then mom has the other child for 100% time sharing. So the children are split as to who the majority time sharing parent is. And so these are technically still good case law. So if you ever have one of those unusual cases, know that we have that in the program. Right, that is it. So I don't see any questions about kids or kid taxes. So let's go back into the income. So we did have questions about income. So you have to have kids plus money. So let's open up the wages and filing status. If you remember, Tommy makes $5,500 a month. Let's say Anna, she is self-employed and she says that she gets a 1099 and she makes $40,000 and I'm going to make this a year. So that's what her 1099 reflected. To make her self-employed, I just check this box here. So if you see X if self-employed, I click here. That means she is fully subject to the self-employment tax. So that's how you would make a party self-employed. And that you will notice if this box is checked or unchecked, you will see an effect on child support because it affects their taxes. If there's a follow-up to that, please let me know. If they have a business like an LLC or an S Corp, I will touch on that. So self-employed means that they are a 1099. Hourly. Let's say Anna is unemployed. I could check this hourly box. And so that means we're going to apply minimum wage, which happens to be $10 an hour. That will bump to 11 pretty soon. So if you have the cloud, you'll come in here and you'll see that it's been modified as it changes. If you use the desktop version, you will need to update. I could adjust the hours or I could adjust the pay period. If you are representing people who are lower on the income scale or minimum wage, you want to check out these boxes. Why? These are big tax credits. So if you are making minimum wage, close to minimum wage, you are entitled to the earned income tax credit and other tax credits. And when you leave these boxes clear, you'll notice many times that net income will be higher than gross income because tax credits are being added to them. If you don't want that to happen, check these boxes. It's kind of a fairness thing. You know, is the income real? Is the income imputed? You have to make those determinations. Check out the blue question bubbles to get more guidance, or let me know if you have questions. All right, so that's all about income. And then we kind of touch on the lower income issues. Tax filing status. By default, whoever has the kids the most is head of household and the other person will be single. These are drop downs. She might qualify for head of household in her own right. So I would click head of household for her. And I instantly see the effect on child support. It was about $30 a month. So these things actually make a significant difference. So it's important to look for them. All right, there was a question about net. So never use net wages. Net wages is a big no-no. So why is net wages? So always, and pay, so let me click, hold on, pay attention to the wording. So the question was asked, where do I put in net wages? You don't ever do that. Why? I might work at a company where I have my gross income, and then off of my gross income, I put a bunch of money into my 401k, and they include daycare, and then they reimburse me for my dry cleaning. And then there's like I worked at Hilton, and like they used to take out like $5 out of my paycheck for some, I don't know, I just felt it like it was some type of weird meal plan they said it was, and then they would give it back to you. So you never enter net wages because each paycheck is different. And in Florida, we're trying to get to net income under the statute, and that paycheck isn't going to meet net income under the statute. So that's why we ask for gross, and then we will take out the appropriate taxes and the appropriate deductions under the statute. But net income is different. So we let you type in net income. This is not net income from a pay stub. This is not net income like your CPA thinks of it. This is net income for the child support guideline worksheet, net income under the Florida child support statute. What do I mean by that? If you've ever used a free child support calculator, so let me type in 999. Okay, so that was a number super obvious. I'm going to go to my child support guideline worksheet so you can see what we mean by net income. There is a speech bubble, but let's look at this number and where this number goes. So I click reports, and then I click child support guideline. This is your child support guideline worksheet that we are creating. Remember that 999 number, it's here, okay? If you ever want to start your client at a net number, why would I do this? Let's say that you, or before you got on the case, the parties already went in front of the judge and got a temporary time sharing order, and the judge already ran the numbers, and you want to start off with the same net income that the judge found, and then you only want to make adjustments to overnights, okay? Or you know, the health insurance for the kid or something. So that's what we're talking about when we say net income. And so this is net income under the Florida statute, which is very specific. If you haven't read it in a little bit, go check out that chapter. Let's go back to child support. So if I haven't, hopefully everybody's following me. If you're not, let me know. Enter data, child support. this number. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. I'm going to get rid of that number. And then let me make sure that I don't have a question related to what we were just talking about. I'll get to the taxes. I'm going to get to the taxes. Give me one more minute. Wage-like income. So is the next folder. Wage-like income is what I call funny money. It's money coming in, tips, bonuses, overtime, disability, etc. Put it on the right line. Why? Because it might be taxable. It might be non-taxable. It might not matter. So Anna might get like $300 in food stamps. It does not affect child support, but it's important for you to know, at least in my opinion, because I'm super nosy and I'm trying to figure out how much, available cash they have. But obviously this is not money for, child support purposes. Okay. These lines are for your own income. So I see a lot of users use this for military issues. So if they have a housing allowance, you can put all of those interesting, weird types of income here, make them taxable or non-taxable, and the description will flow to the financial affidavit, and this will be included in their income for child support purposes. So that's what we have this here for. We do have the child Social Security derivative benefit. This is SSDI that the child receives because mom or dad is retired, or they are obviously disabled, because if they were dead, they wouldn't be here. So SSDI. If the child gets SSI because they are blind, they qualify under the federal rules and they get their own Social Security check, that is not what we are talking about here. That is the child's money. It goes nowhere into the program. But if the child receives an SSDI check because of mom or dad's disability, it goes here. All right, taxes, deductions. So let's just go into deductions. I promise we'll get to that last tax question. Deductions. So again, we follow the statute. A big deduction is going to be health insurance. You have to figure out the parent's health insurance versus the child's insurance. You really have to figure it out. We have ways to help you if their human resources isn't cooperating, or it's just one of those sticky situations. If they have one kid, it's $200. If they have 6 kids, it's still $200. So you still have to allocate between the family and the parents, etc. So with health insurance, it's parents plus child. I know that can be confusing for some people, but just it's parent plus child. Why do we ask for that? That's the easy number to find. So when you look at a pay stub, it just says how much they pay for their health insurance for the family per pay period. And so that's why we ask for it. That's why we ask for it that way. And so then we are asking in line 2 of that 600, how much do you want to allocate to the children? And so, kids are expensive and they're the majority of the costs. It's the family plan that's expensive. Okay. This is if your client knows what the breakdown is. If your client doesn't know what the breakdown is, we do have a pro rata worksheet here. So you can see we have health insurance, dental insurance, the tax categories, which by default, we assume it's coming out of their W-2 pay stub. If not, look at these options. And then we have a pro rata worksheet. So that means that we are going to take out parties from the plan. If you know the total cost, we'll take out parties and allocate what we think is fair based off of, division. So check that out. 9, daycare. 10, alimony on this relationship. Taxes. All right, so we've got a couple questions about taxes. So if you recall, we said gross. Okay. If you need to adjust the taxes because you have federal employees and their taxes are different and you need to adjust XYZ, if you don't like our taxes and you want to change them, even though we don't suggest that, we do have a tax worksheet. And so under line 12, there is a tax worksheet here. When you do the financial affidavit, there is a tax section similar to this as well. So it's in multiple places. And if I click the tax worksheet, I can make adjustments to the taxes here. Again, we don't suggest you do that. You're paying us to do the heavy lifting, which is the taxes. But if you're working with a professional, or you need to adjust the taxes for the reasons that we've stated before, or for your own reasons for your case, you're welcome to do so. So you would do that here. And then I could do it for either party. Look for detailed tax worksheets, and I'll show you another place where we have a tax worksheet where you could also make adjustments. And if you have questions about a specific case, Like you have a client that works for the FBI and there's this weird thing on their pay stub, let us know. Just reach out to us and we'll help. So my email is in the chat. Our support email and my direct email is there as well. All right, back to child support. So if you remember, we did daycare on line 9, alimony on this case. This is where we were dealing with the tax worksheets. And this is where the statute ends for the net income deduction. So remember the person that asked about net wages from a pay stub? These are the only ones that the Florida statute allows. So what is allowable under the statute will be here because we want to make sure you get to the right result. And remember, one of the big ones is mandatory retirement. Mandatory. So your client is putting $13,000 a year into their 401k. Florida doesn't care. It wasn't mandatory. You did that on your own. It's still available income. Other states, they do it a little differently. So some states actually allow that, which is fun. All right, that's it. If you have older or wealthier clients or businesses, I would suggest you go to this last folder, but most of us are done here. Child support is 605 and we're done for the day. We do have a couple of questions. I don't know, there was a question about receives money from the tribunal. There was a question where they asked if the child receives money. You can reach out to me individually, but remember, children can have their own streams of income depending on what that income is. Depends on if it's technically the money of the child or if it's divisible between the parties. So for instance, like adoption subsidies I read are divided based off of time sharing. I don't necessarily know if that's still the case or if that would be similar to other monies that the child receives. So I'd probably do a little bit of case law research on that to find out if it should be factored into child support. So there was a tribunal counsel question. I'd probably do research on that to find out if it should be even considered in the child support calculation. Business. So there's a question about businesses. So this is all the fun income that we hope to get. So if I click up this folder, this is because your client is older, wealthier, or has a business. These are all of those fun types of business. I have a pension, that'd be awesome. Dividend and interest income. So though that's what is going to go here. If I scroll down, business. So we talked about the person who's 1099. We didn't talk about the business. So let's say that your client has a lawn care biz. Let me put an L there. Value, that's mostly for your ED worksheet. Net cash flow. So this is the gross income minus allowable expenses. And so let's say that he makes like $30,000 a year. And it's his business and he keeps it all. So remember, we're a two-party system. The business is an asset. There's cash flow. Who gets to keep it? So that's what that is. Here, what type of business? Individual, partnership, S Corp, or C Corp. That is for tax purposes. So you want to check out these options here. And then you also have your green box here. So if your client is organized, they've got their QuickBooks, they're keeping track of things, they've got their P&L, they've got their taxes done, you might be pretty good just entering the information here. Even then, under the green box, there's probably some relevant information. So let's say your client just says, well, here is my composition notebook and I write things in here. And you're like, oh my gosh, you click this green box. And then, hold on, where did it go? Let me scroll up here. We have an income and expense worksheet. So if your client needs you to do an attachment to their financial affidavit, you need to do it for them. You're not going to attach a P&L or some tax document to their financial affidavit, and you need to create the income and expense worksheet for their business. We let you do that in family law software. And I got here by clicking that green box. So again, you can take deep dives into issues, or you can do things really superficial. It's up to you how much you want to utilize our product, but she's got a lot of good stuff in here. And so I think I answered all the questions. So if you have a question about income or taxes, pop it in the chat or reach out to me about your individual case. Child support is $927 paid by Tommy. So let's go print. Let's go to reports. And let's print our child support guideline worksheet, okay? This is the Supreme Court form. Don't make changes here. Go back into your calculator and make the changes there because all the information, you want it to flow correctly and get the right number. Here is an income worksheet where we break down the taxes, okay? Other printing options are across the top. We have what we call a landscape version. So if your fact finder or opposing counsel is printing one page sideways, we will do that for you. We'll print the same numbers in the same order. Why? It's the same information, but it's easier on the eyes for you to compare them side by side. And that's your child support here is that 927, okay? And then step downs. So if I have more than one child and I entered their date of birth, we'll calculate level 1 and level 2. It will end in the month of their 18th birthday. This is a very basic step down. It's a snapshot of today. If you want to attach this as your step down, this works. But if you want to go more in depth, we suggest that you just kind of make a little Word document on the side and you can have multiple levels and just kind of use our program as a guide. So it just depends on how in depth you go with your step downs. We have a deviations worksheet. And so that is going to be the meat and potatoes of family law software. We just made a child support guideline worksheet and we made a financial affidavit. A few things I will point out quickly is here, we calculated child support. Okay, let me just go to the top with the kids. Here. So child support is $927 paid by Tommy. I'm in my child support calculator. If you want to run multiple child support scenarios, we have analysis tools. So I encourage all of you to go over the analysis tools. This is your ED worksheet. These are side-by-side tools. Here is side-by-side child support. If I click what if for child support, remember that 927 paid by Tommy is all in this column. I click add scenario and now I have two identical columns, but this is my play. In my play scenario, I'm gonna scroll down and I'm gonna make mom the majority time sharing parent. Yes. So for child 1, she's now the majority time sharing parent. And for child 2, she is now the majority time sharing parent and claiming all of the tax credits. So when I scroll up, this is with dad having the extra overnight. This is mom having the extra overnight. So this is a really great way to play around with the bonus, who pays for daycare, who's claiming the kids. And I can see it side by side and I can click PDF in the top. This is a great attachment as an exhibit to go in front of your fact finder or just to prep the client or to stay ahead of the mediator live while you guys are in session. Okay, so this is what if for child support. Let me go back into reports and then the taxes. So we had a couple of questions about taxes. Under reports, I encourage you to use all of these, but one of them I want to show you is view edit taxes. If you're working with a CPA or your client has a tax return and you want to make an adjustment because you have a reason to make an adjustment, or you want to print this and attach it so that you can show why you calculated or how our program went through the tax analysis, this is their entire tax scenario. Blue bubbles everywhere to explain what we did and how we did it. So here, as I scroll down, I have their income. When I scroll down, I see their adjusted gross income. I scroll down further and I see that they each took the standard deduction. Okay, he got close to going over the standard. You can see what where the deductions, what he was adding up to. He still took the standard. It's rare not to, but they own a lot of property that could be happening. And then the kids. So remember when I was like, it matters who claims the kids. All of this money is in the father's column because in this situation, he's claiming the children and we are seeing what the tax credits are. So if I swap it to the mom, then I could see how the children affect her taxes. So if you've ever wondered why claiming the children is such a big deal, this is where we'll show you those numbers. And then last and finally, when I scroll down, you can see their total tax bill. And if they had a state or local taxes, you would see that. So if one of the parties were Georgia, New York, New Jersey, you would see the fun state and local taxes here that they are subject to paying. So again, thank you so much for being subscribers. Thank you so much for coming to my webinar. Thank you so much for giving me part of your lunch break. If you have any questions, my name and my email is in the chat. Please reach out to us anytime. We are here to help you with specific cases or just general questions. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from you all. Have a great day.